Hello, and thank you everyone for joining our discussion today about Dynamics 365 project operations. I'd like to begin by introducing our panelists and a quick overview of what we'll be covering today. So joining us from Microsoft, we have Gurkan, who's the General Manager of the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Project Operations Initiative. Welcome, Gurkan.
Thank you, Robbie, and thank you for having us today.
Thank you for being here. We also have Rupa, who's the Principal Product Manager for Dynamics 365 Project Operations. Welcome, Rupa.
Hello, Robbie. Hello, everyone, and very happy to be here.
Thank you for being here. From Velosio, we have James. James is our Solutions Architect for project-driven companies. Hi, James.
Hi, Robbie. Super excited to be here and sharing the stage here at Microsoft.
Super excited to have you. And we have myself. I'm Robbie Morrison. I'm our Chief Solution Strategist at Velosio. So today we're going to cover what project operations is. We're going to cover who it benefits and how it benefits this group of companies. We're also going to get to see the solution through a demo that Rupa will do for us, and very excited to see that. And we'll also discuss how you can take advantage of this great solution. With that, I'd ask Gurkan to answer the question, what is project operations, Gurkan?
Thank you, Robbie. Project operations is a business application that targets services organizations with project-centric offerings. So you can think of it as a solution that will help services organizations or the services divisions within product organizations to digitally transform their project lifecycle. So if you think about Microsoft sells both products as well as services, and project operations would be used by their services division. Or if you think about the consulting company, they would rely on project operations as their business application to manage their project lifecycle end to end. And if you look at the segment of the market, service-centric businesses are embracing the move to the cloud much faster than product organizations. We see that in analyst reports. We also see that in our own telemetry when we look at our customers that move to the cloud. And many service-centric businesses see the cloud as a way of increasing value and improving the flexibility and mobile accessibility of their business application deployments. And there's a good reason for that. If you contrast the services organization to a product organization, these businesses need to be much more agile, right? If there's a shift in demand from one offering to another, or introducing a new offering into the market, is very difficult for the product organization, right? They need to manage their supply chain. They need to, roll out a new offering into the market, prepare the manufacturing, create inventory, and then offer that in the market. So it's very capital intensive and takes a long time. That's not the case for services organizations, though, right? Services organizations can move from one offering to another by training their resources on that offering, hiring accordingly, and can be much more agile compared to product organizations. And project operations is the solution that will allow businesses to be able to react very quickly to these types of demand shifts and then market changes. And if you look what we have done with project operations, it's really the evolution of what we had in market with our project service automation offering and with our project management and accounting offering. We have taken the best capabilities out of PSA, out of our project management and accounting module, as well as combined it with Microsoft Project to provide an end-to-end solution that will bring all the personas from the salesperson to the project manager to the resource manager to the project accountant together into a single application.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Gurkan. With that, could you also tell us which vertical markets you feel benefit the most from implementing project operations?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you look at project operations, we're developing this solution as a horizontal solution, right? We rely on our extensive partner ecosystem to go the last mile to serve customers in specific industries. So we have customers in manufacturing, in healthcare, in professional services, obviously, in architecture, engineering, and construction, and then several other industries that we serve. And for most industries, our partners come into the implementation, they bring their subject matter expertise, and they configure and customize project operations to our customers' needs. And in certain cases, we have also very deep skilled partners who have developed IP in the market that they deploy on top of project operations to accelerate the implementation. And Velosio's AXIO is one of those IPs that we have in the market where the implementation can be accelerated and our customers can benefit from their investments in a much shorter duration from the implementation perspective with richer functionalities. And then maybe James can talk a little bit about your presence and your expertise in the professional services market.
Yeah, thank you, Gurkan. Yeah, the professional services space absolutely represents the largest market for project operations. And the firms in this space, they live and die in a project-based world. So it's not surprising that in terms of business solutions, the Holy Grail has always been a fully integrated life cycle solution, starting from leads and sales opportunities, moving through the quoting and contract management stage, into project planning and execution, and then finally with billing and financials. And of course, there's analytics at every step of the way. So each of these subverticals, while they are commonly linked by what we call projects, they use their own terminology. So for example, a law firm would refer to a project as really being a case or a matter. An accounting firm would refer to as audits or engagements. An engineering firm would probably simply call it a job. Marketing firms would maybe call it events. But all of these are, from a system standpoint, they're underpinned using the infrastructure and the vehicle of a project. So other than being project-based, these firms primarily drive their revenue from billing out people. That's their intellectual capital. And so management of these people, also known as resources, are very, very important. Most of these resources can either be employees or subcontractors. And so resource management is an important aspect for these types of businesses. In contrast to all of these professional services firms, you have, your typical product distribution company or manufacturing firm. And the difference is that professional services firms really is managing about human capital as their resource, and really don't always deal with products. And so don't have to deal with inventory and warehouse management requirements. There are, of course, exceptions to this, such as design build firms who provide both services and products. So these are really good examples of common targets for good fits for the project operations space. Robbie?
Yeah. So Gurkan, we've had a lot of solutions in the market before. We've had the solutions from Microsoft you mentioned previously, and a lot of competitors have offerings for this. But when a business is looking to update their operations and improve upon their systems, why should they be selecting project operations over the myriad of other solutions in the market?
Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about that, Robbie. And maybe I'll start with the landscape, the enterprise landscape that we see in our customers from an application footprint perspective. We talked about these services businesses being very quick to adopt the cloud and go to the cloud. Although they do that quickly, we see that they still have various applications that they use to manage their business lifecycle, right? They usually have a sales system where they track their leads and opportunities that's disconnected from the delivery team. Their project managers use different project management tools where project execution is being tracked, and project progress information needs to be frequently uploaded to the business application. That's either a manual process or there's a third-party integration there. Project financials and project profitability is usually tracked in yet a separate system. Team members track their time and expense in a multitude of tools, and consultant skills and profiles are tracked in different applications as well. And usually these team members, they need to enter their expense in a tool for project cost tracking perspective, and then they need to enter it into a different tool to get reimbursed on those expenses, right? So a lot of inefficiencies there. And if you look at practice managers, they have a multitude of tools that they use for risk management. So merging the data from all these siloed applications and to derive insights becomes a challenge and introduces many inaccuracies in the process. And I can talk to that from personal experience as well, Robbie. Many years ago, in a past life, I used to manage a Dynamics practice in the Microsoft Consulting Services organization. And our footprint was exactly the same. We have over 10 systems where we were managing our project business in, and we would go through this workforce planning exercise. We would do this twice a year. It was because it was so expensive, right? So we would get the data out of our sales system, the financials out of our finance system. We would look at resource utilization, how many hours our resources have spent on pre-sales versus delivery, which offerings were in demand. We would look at our P&L. So this would take us 3 to 4 weeks to get the data together. But the insights that we got from it were invaluable, right? So we would understand where we need to hire, where we need to train new resources, because we would see demand shifts. We would see that the Dynamics demand is increasing, and we would take resources that were trained in other practices and train them on Dynamics. We would hire accordingly. So obviously getting these types of insights every 6 months is not acceptable in today's world, right? Our customers want to get these insights in real time, and project operations will allow you to do so. And if we look at the organization and the players within project operations connects the entire organization, empowers sales, project management, resourcing, delivery, partner management, and accounting teams with the visibility they need to win more contracts, accelerate project delivery, and maximize profitability. Project operations integrates with our customers' systems such as sales, finance, and HR without the need to rip and replace existing systems, right? So it maximizes our customers' existing investments. So with project operations, project managers are able to use their native tool and plan projects directly within their business application without the need for third-party integration. As project managers assign new resources and update status on tasks, revenue and cost will be seamlessly updated in the back end. And resource managers having visibility to all project requirements and resource availability can easily propose the most optimal project team to project managers. And account managers can accurately estimate opportunities in collaboration with the delivery team and increase their ability to win more contracts, right? Another benefit of having the salespeople together with the delivery team is that the delivery team exactly knows what expectations were set with the customer before they start the delivery. I can tell you in my past, I went into a lot of customers where I was going to deliver a project. I had no idea what our sales team had promised them because we didn't do a good handover, and we didn't have the system to see that. And with project operations, now you can see the project plan that the pre-sales team has used, the quote that they have generated, that makes it easy for that handover. Partner managers will be able to collaborate with subcontractors and ensure the procurement processes are completed according to the organization's policies and maximize the value from their vendor contracts. If you look at the project accountant, they will have accurate visibility on pro forma invoice initiated by the project manager. Today, the project accountant has to chase the project manager down to exactly know what they can invoice to the customer. So the system will allow you to make that handover seamless between the two personas. And team members will be able to enter time and expenses for the respective projects that they are assigned to, but will also be able to get reimbursed on the same expenses. So our expense capabilities in project operations are easily integrated to an accounts payable module, Robbie, where you can reimburse the consultant on the same expense entry as well as track project costs. And in the next slide, we can look at the high-level capabilities that project operations has and how we make this happen. Obviously, Rupa will go into further detail during the demo into each of these areas. So if you look at project operations, it's an offering that includes end-to-end capabilities all the way from project sales to project financials. Our project sales capabilities are built on top of Dynamics 365 for sales and support the opportunity to quote process in a project context. So what we have done is we have taken the opportunity entities and our sales IP, and we built project-specific features onto it. And project sales-specific features include CPQ type capabilities for services, right? So that resources can be priced and cost on multi-dimensions. Right? What you want to do is you want to price your resources based on their geographical location, based on their skill set, based on their experience, and our CPQ capabilities within project operations are configurable. So you can add additional dimensions to it as you see fit. Project sales capabilities also include creation of a WBS or the project plan with generic resources, price and cost these generic resources, and then turn this into a quote that you then submit to the customer. And once you win that quote, the same project that you have used in pre-sales is then moved over to the delivery team, right? Talking again about the sales to delivery handover. And at that point, the project manager from the delivery team is assigned to that project. And that project manager will work with the resource manager to resource that project. Right? So they will replace the generic resources that are in the WBS or the project plan with named resources. And since the resource manager has visibility across the whole practice, resource practice, and resource availability, as well as into different project requirements, they will provide the optimum, propose the optimum resources for that project. And then once the project is sourced and you have all the resources allocated to the project, it will start executing, where the team members will start entering time and expense. That will then accrue to revenue and cost. And our expense capabilities in project operations are very rich, so that you can have policies. We have OCR type capabilities so that the consultant can take a picture of a receipt, upload it to that system, and that will create an automated expense entry in the system with the right amount, with the right vendor, and the right date. So as the project executes, we obviously support both time and material and fixed fee type projects. So if it's a time and material project, the customer will be invoiced at certain intervals. If it's a fixed fee project, they would be invoiced at certain milestones. So all those capabilities are supported in project operations, and then the revenue recognition capabilities are there, as well as the project accounting capabilities. And since the whole project operations runs on the Power Platform, we have great business insights that the system will show to our customers all around resource utilization, the P&L information of your project business, any level of detail that you want to see. So with that, I think I can hand over to Rupa, and then maybe we can see the system live.
Thank you, Gurkan. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough of all that that you saw in the slide that Gurkan just presented in terms of the full end-to-end capability that we offer on the project operations surface. So I'll start just in the same order that we saw in the slide deck at the sales, pricing, and the proposal creation process around projects, and then move on to the project management, tracking, execution, planning, and also eventually to time and expense and resource management and to the project accounting pieces. So this is really the end-to-end product. It is a product that can really address all questions that every one of those personas that you saw in the previous slides that Gurkan was talking about, and their needs addressed. So starting with the sales team, the capabilities we have is a very detailed sales process. We start all the way from the lead and the opportunity process at that stage of your bid cycle, and we are built on top of Dynamics 365 sales. So if you are already using sales, Dynamics 365 sales, it should be a pretty easy transition to project operations and the sales extensions around projects. So starting with the opportunity, as you can see on the screen, we have a few concepts here that light it up for the projects world. Basically, you can define who owns this opportunity from which legal entity and which division of your company owns this project opportunity. And that in turn drives a few key financial aspects around how that bid is costed and priced. So those are some of the extensions, but otherwise most of the goodness around relationship insights and tracking the probability of your opportunity are all there. One other key extension in the opportunity area is a way or an ability for you to have itemize your opportunity for the type of project work that you are going to be doing on this. And in addition, each opportunity can have multiple quotations. So it helps build those alternative pricing and planning strategies that best works for the goals of this client or this particular deal. So if you look at the metrics of each of these that we show, for example, here I have two quotes. One where the resourcing model is wholly on-site, and one where it's a mix of on-site and offshore. And the metrics that project operations shows for you is what's the gross margin if I were to have with each of these, and how competitive or how much within the customer expectations of budget and schedule am I going to be. And obviously here the winner is this quote, where we see that the margin is significantly different and it is well within the expectations of the customer's schedule and budget. So if you open up this quote, as you progress through the life cycle of this opportunity or bid, you can get to some key metrics around profitability analysis, how the quote is being built up from the ground up by project operations, leveraging very detailed price lists and the ability to cost based on geography, division, or n number of dimensions that you may have that influence your pricing and costing strategy. So based on that, it's a very, a number that's backed by a lot of configuration and richness here. It could be as simple as you make it, or it could be as complex as your organization desires when it comes to these concepts. In addition to the pricing and costing that's driven based off of your needs, you could also have additional negotiation vectors on your quote, whereby you could say, what components of my quote are going to be chargeable, what components of this quote are going to be non-chargeables. For example, in this quote, I have some fixed price components, and I also have some time and material components. I just click to see what my time and material components are, and there I can see that there are these rows that are chargeable. And I also, by moving into the expenses component, which happens to be going off of the fixed price billing method, I can see what are my expense categories that are chargeable, what are non-chargeable. And at that point, you could just as well say that for this deal, a hotel could be, charges could be non-chargeable. Or similarly, on the roles in the time component, you could go in and say a so-and-so role is going to be non-chargeable, but it's just for this particular proposal that we are giving this this kind of pricing for the customer. And that in turn affects how your quote is built up, right? The value or the quoted amount of that component will change to take into account only chargeable values, and those non-chargeable components will be contributing to your cost, and therefore they will impact your margins, so that the person building the quote has an accurate estimate of what their actual margin is going to be. Now, moving on from the quote to the happy path where you win a quote. Of course, if you lose a quote, the quote is lost, and the project backing project can be closed and is automatically closed by the system. But in the happy path, where you are landing the deal and your bid or proposal is accepted by the customer, the system, when you close this quote as one, the system creates a contract. And in there, I'd like to touch on a few things here in terms of the flexibility that you have with the contracting in project operations. So you could have a contract that has, say, for example, in this example, the contract has only one component, and that component is going to be fully time and material. But there are a few examples of our contracts where, the contract is not as straightforward. It may have, a combination of fixed price and T&M components. And that is something that you can totally set up, all the way from quote to contract, where, going with the previous example, I have some work here, time components that are fixed price, whereas my expense components are actually T&M. So you have a fixed value negotiated with the customer when it comes to the work, but once for travel expenses and such else, you can have a T&M sort of a billing method where you're just billing as you incur your costs. In all of these setup, the project, the project is the front and center of our experiences. We'd like to, keep the project, the project manager in all of our thinking around this, because that is the person that is loaded in most organizations. They have to deliver to the sales team's expectations. They have to deliver to budget. They have to make sure that the right resources are getting utilized. They have to make sure that it's a loaded role. They have to make sure that the work is done, completed on time, customer is happy. So a lot of responsibility resides on that role. So given that every experience is designed to bring the project manager up to speed with what is the latest on this project, because there is a lot of personas interacting with the project, like salespeople, like resource managers, whatever they do, and consultants who are recording time on expenses on a daily basis. And of course, there is project accountants recognizing revenue. Each one of these personas, whatever task they are performing on the project, that always comes back to the project and the PM so that they have visibility into everything. Certain actions and certain processes they should be able to influence, but certain actions and other processes, they may be just on the consuming end of that information. So we have designed it in such a way that the project manager always gets the latest on everything that's happening on their projects, and also is able to influence where they can on the course of the project's execution. So coming to the project entity, basically the project has some of the same notions, basically which legal entity owns this project and which practice unit. For example, in this environment, I have two practice units, robotics and software. So this is a way for me as a PM to say who is the legal entity that owns this company and which practice unit owns. But again, if that has already been decided, as part of your sales process, and if this is a billable project, you want that information to flow. And that automatically flows and keeps the project manager from making any errors to that. And then there is, of course, a detailed calendaring experience where a project can be tied to a certain type of calendar with a certain working hours or schedule, which in turn informs how we plan the project, how the tasks on this project are scheduled. this is a project that is in execution, and I have my task breakdown here. And this is powered by Microsoft Project, in a nod to what Gurkan was mentioning earlier, that this initiative on project operations is about bringing the best of Microsoft's suite of project-based solutions and bringing them all together in a seamless way. Again, it shouldn't be that the user needs to go to Microsoft Project to use this. They are in one surface, and Microsoft Project sort of comes to that surface to deliver the experience that the PM needs when it comes to project planning. So, or if the salesperson would like to leverage the deep sales capabilities and business process, the sales application is there with the required enhancements to deliver the numbers that the salesperson needs to build those proposals to projects. So we've tried to minimize, those jumps for users to get to the best of breed solutions. Our goal or ambition for this product is that the persona that is interacting with any aspect of a project has that information directly available to them when they need it, without having to do those hops. So when it comes to project planning, basically we have Kanban style board views, and these board views, like, there is custom based on your user defined buckets, like I have all tasks, customer facing tasks, or tasks that require review. It's just very easy drag and drop experience to move things around between buckets. And in addition to the bucket view, we also have the progress view, or the tasks based on finish date, or categorization based on who's assigned to it. So these are a few, and in addition to these, we do have an interactive Gantt. So if I just zoom out there are, these experiences are all interactive. I could extend a task and then influence the dependent tasks. Absolutely, I can do that. So if this task, say, is dependent on the finish of this task, and that task is needs to finish for this task to start. So if I extend this one, automatically this one moves. And there's also the ability to visualize different aspects of this experience, right? You can visualize milestone tasks, or you can visualize just tasks that, or you can even move tasks along in the timeline to influence the start and end dates. Now, as you are planning these projects, one question that we often get is, what type of scheduling capabilities can we expect in the system? So you have very deep scheduling engine here, and it's going to get even deeper. But you do have a fairly useful system of dependencies as well as constraints. So for example, we have 3 constraints that we support already, and we will support more as we go further. There is the constraint of start no earlier than, and there is another constraint called finish no earlier than, and ASAP, or as soon as possible, that we already support today. And we support, in the dependency area, we support finish to start. This covers most experiences or scheduling needs, but we will go on to enhance these as time goes by. And in terms of giving the project manager that end-to-end view, not just relating to schedule and dates, but rather also to who's available to do this work. Yeah, I did all this plan, that's fine, but who's available to do this work? What type of people do I need? And how much do they cost? Are they even available? So those are few questions that come as soon as you win this project, right? Those are things that are hitting the project manager day in, day out, until they finish this project on time and within budget. So with that, the scheduling experiences or resource scheduling experiences that we've got, they are one of the different strengths of our product. And I would say this is one of the strong areas where, if I'm trying to staff my project, there are multiple interaction patterns. Depending on the size of the organization and the processes that they have, the project manager can directly book somebody on their project. And when they're doing that, they are doing that with full visibility on the type of people they have, when they are available, when they are needed, what are their skill sets, and how does that impact the schedule of the project. If I don't find somebody available within the timeline, what do I do? How do I change this? And what is the granularity? As you can see, I have these people that the system brought up for me, and that's entirely taking into account the type of skills, the roles, and what division do they need to belong in order for me to, hit a certain on-site offshore resourcing mix. And it also shows me, okay, in the week of Jan 3rd, I need 32 hours, and these people, all of them have 32 hours in that, or do they not? So it does show me that as compared to the availability required and the availability that each of these people have. Now, if I want to expand the search, I can always, relax some of these filter criteria and put in a better search. So that's one paradigm that exists as a project manager to be able to control what they want. And in addition to this, basically, if they want to restrict or choose from a set of preferred resources, they can do that to influence that search. Now, in larger organizations, the project manager being able to do this may be considered as a violation of the roles and responsibilities or the separation of duties. In those cases, the project manager can submit this to a resource manager. There is a requirement, I need to get this staffed, but I'm not supposed to do it. So I can submit this request to my resource manager, who can then go in and propose resources to me. So those experiences that are resource manager focused are huge, and we have pretty deep capabilities there. Now, the resource manager, the schedule board is really the front and center for the resource manager. They can see the availability of people, what they're occupied on given a certain date, and what is the status or what is their utilization view. So we know that Ashley is working in this spread, in these, in this duration, and I can change this duration. I can change the time scale from weeks to days and see a better, a more granular view, or a less granular view if that's what I'm after. And this schedule board experience is really meant for this resource manager to stay in this product all day. So the area can be expanded. I'll just go full screen here, and I can even expand this to, get more real estate for the resource manager to, that takes the Chrome away, and I can start searching, look at my requirements here and find availability and invoke that search from right here. So the schedule board is really powerful and has a ton of configurability already. So basically these filters or the set of filters that are available for a resource manager are entirely configurable. If there are some custom attributes by which you want to search for your resources, you can, there's enough documentation out there that you can influence this area of the filter pane and include more attributes if you want to search for them. And when you introduce more attributes, you can also prioritize how the resources that conform to those filter criteria are shown on the page for you. So you will be able to influence even the search API, all using very simple fetch XML style syntax, and influence that part of the resource search as well. And just getting out of the full screen here, back to our resource manager experiences. So when the project manager actually submits a resource request, the resource manager has the ability, there's an area meant for the resource manager. They will be able to see the requests in the system and respond to those requests in a prioritized way. And they can also interact with the PM, asking additional questions. So that request and response flow is very available in the product in a very declarative and a rich way. So moving on from the resource management to time and expense. So as these, one thing I'd like to mention here is, as we are winning these quotes and creating these contracts, And as we are creating those projects and tasks, one thing that happens in the background when you are in this integrated mode is all of these projects are automatically getting into finance and operations. So for the project accountant to be aware that these projects are coming and that these projects are in execution, and if there is accounting activity that needs to happen on them, that the project accountant has enough information well in advance before a project's execution starts. So given that, now moving on from the schedule board into, okay, we have staffed this project, we now want our consultants to start recording time on the project, right? So it has a very deep time entry experience, user-friendly, and it's also available on a mobile app. But this is the web experience on time entries. You can either create a time entry manually as a full-time employee, and all of this maps to a team member license. So you can add, you'll have the capability of entering time 5 days, and you can configure what is the start date of a week, what are the working days, what are the non-working days. And in terms of making it easy, if I've done this and I do this every week and I'm working on this project for 6 months, there is a way for the consultant to be able to copy their time entries from a previous week into this week. And there is also, if I'm working on this project, there's a way to get your time entries imported based on your assignments on the project. So if you're assigned to, say, 10 tasks on the project, you could bring all of those resource assignments into your time entries, and you will get automatic time entries created based on your assignment dates. And if you are a company that does not actually do that, additional granular step of being able to go and assign people to specific tasks on the project, you might as well use resource bookings to import your time entries from resource bookings as your source, or even exchange appointments if that's where your consultants typically enter their billable work assignments. So there are these multiple sources and the copy experiences to make the time entry experiences a lot easier. And in addition to time, there are expense entries available, and there is also the rich expense management capabilities that we have in F&O, that you can record an expense to a project operations project, and get that expense into the project manager's view for approval. And then the project manager during the approval has the visibility into whether a certain time entry is violating the not to exceed limits or not. And all those information that a project manager needs in order to approve a time entry are there. So we can potentially just include, maybe create a time entry and approve it for us to be able to see some of that. So let me create an hour or say 5 hours on this project, and submit that to the project manager. So I'm recording some 5 hours time and I'm submitting that. And when I do that in the approvals, now I'm configured to be the approver on this project. But once that is done, on the approvals page, I can see whether that, the not to exceed limit has failed and why it has failed. So it has failed because of the limit set up against the contract. And that doesn't necessarily stop me from approving, but I can also, reject this time entry at this point, saying that it violated the not to exceed limit. So it depends on how you would like to configure that business process. But out of the box, it gives the ability for you to approve that particular time entry, and then either unapprove it later on, or maybe fix your not to exceed limits. So all those interaction patterns. And one thing that I'd like to call out here, which is a very well-loved capability, is for me to be able to say as a PM that yes, the resource submitted 5, but only 3 of those hours I want to charge to the customer. So that's something. So the 5 hours will be treated as cost, but the 3 hours will be billable to your customer. And all of these actuals are recorded in your time and material billing backlog, and even any milestones that you have on your projects are also listed in your fixed price billing backlog. Now, as activity is going on in finance and operations, this activity is being recorded, and we are showing this activity in the form of integration journals. The time that you just approved, that I just approved on a certain project, that gets automatically synced, so I can see that there are some time entries on this fraud analysis at Adventure project. And at this point, the project manager can see that, okay, there was an hour scheduled and booked on this project. This is the cost of it, and then this is the sales amount of that particular time entry. And they have the ability to change the billing sales tax group or the item sales tax group to influence how tax is getting calculated. And then the accountant can then post this such that project revenue can be recorded on the project. So this accounting will ensure that both cost and sales WIP is recorded on the project, and that is in conforming to the rules that you may have had defined in your project cost and revenue profile rules, where how you want to account for costs, whether you want sales WIP or not. All of that capability is driven by these project cost and revenue profile rules that either apply to a specific contract or a specific group of projects or a specific project. So if I go back, each of these rules has those settings to say where do your costs post to for time, where do your costs post to for items or material expenses, and your on account invoicing. So all of that is entirely configurable. And if you are invoicing, those invoices that you generate for your customers, those invoices also are syncing to finance and operations. So if I open any of these project invoices, you have the ability, when the invoice is created, the project manager and the project accountant both have visibility to the invoice. So I can look at my invoice that came in for a certain project as an accountant. I can decide how that invoice is going to get printed, and I can do that kind of an interaction with the invoice as an accountant. But also as a PM, I can look to see what invoices, what are my invoices that are available. What is, how do I, if I go back to my T&M billing backlog, and if I say, okay, I see some that are committed, that is, they did not fail the not to exceed validation, so I can mark them as ready to invoice. And then I could go to my project contract and then go to the specific contract here, where I have this billing backlog approved for invoicing, and I can elect to create an invoice. So at the moment I create an invoice, or when the invoice can be automatically created as well. But when the invoice gets created, as a PM, I can go in and adjust the quantities one more time. I have that ability to do that to ensure that me and my customer are on the same page. So I can go in, open up these T&M line that I've got on this invoice and see what is getting invoiced. So I have visibility as a PM to see what is getting invoiced. I can change the quantities. And at some point when I feel all the right charges are included on this invoice, I can then go in and confirm this invoice. That then makes that invoice available for the accountant in project accounting module of project operations. So let me go ahead, confirm this invoice, this Y4 RMM5, and then we can go to finance and operations. Once that gets confirmed, you can go over to the invoicing screen, project invoice proposals, so that I can then, yeah, you can see that Y4 R5M5 invoice is available, but the amount is not yet come through. So if you give that a few minutes, you'll see that that invoice has come into finance and operations for the project accountant, then to be able to change the layouts, maybe change the sales tax information so that the invoice, the charges are correct. The project managers has approved those charges, but then we also need to ensure for the timely invoicing to happen that the details around the format and the layout of the invoice are also available. So let me go back here and see this invoice. Yeah, this invoice has been confirmed. Let's run that batch process to make sure that we have the flow from CE to F&O working. And then we can just go back to our invoice proposals. And there we go, the charges have come in. So now I can open this invoice as an accountant and I can see that that charge has come in. I still have the ability, to edit the sales tax group, but more importantly, as an accountant, I can, leverage the well-loved print management infrastructure in F&O to set up overrides to a default layout. And as you can see, you have the ability to decide an invoice format for that customer, or for that particular contract, or for that specific invoice. You can have a different layout if that's your requirement. But this is a very powerful feature that allows you to format the invoice proposal any way you see fit for your customers. So coming to revenue recognition, we have a full blown revenue recognition that is completely IFRS compliant. So when you go to a fixed price project, you have the estimates experience here where you can see, so let me select one of those which I have already posted an estimate for. So it brings in those transactions as they are flowing in from all the activity that the consultants are doing on the project. All those are getting synced, including your initial estimate, right? So those are coming in on my project. I've had, let's say if you go back to your project, you have done your estimation on the project. So I open our production design, which is our fixed price project. That is, it is going based off of fixed price. These estimates that you have done on the project, they have also been synced to F&O so that F&O knows what the cost estimates are. And based on those estimates or the forecast model, then you can, based off of what percentage you are complete, which is also something that you can leverage multiple methods to calculate your percent complete. So as I'm creating a new estimate, we have in very highly configurable methods to calculate percent complete, and also to use what is remaining to be completed, and based on that your revenue is recognized. So all of those are taking into account the functionality that's very familiar to project management and accounting users, to be able to define how you want to calculate your percent complete for revenue recognition purposes. And this can be the same as what you track on your project. So it could come from WBS or the project manager's tracking of effort, but it could just as well be configured or edited manually by the accountant if there are certain nuances to that percent complete. So it's really, all the way from sales to the final posted ledger entries to for your in-process transactions like time and expense, all the way to actually the holy grail of recognizing revenue. It's that end-to-end solution that caters to different personas that interact with projects. And as we go, this will get way more powerful. And I'll hand it back to Gurkan to continue on the content here.
Thank you, Rupa. This was a great demo, and hopefully everyone has enjoyed a preview, a peek view into project operations. Obviously, Rupa can go hours demoing this product, and if there is any interest, please reach out to Velosio, and we're happy to support any additional demonstrations of the product. With that, back to you, Robbie.
Yeah, that was an amazing demo, Rupa. Thank you so much for showing us all the great work you and your team have done. So both Rupa and Gurkan have shown you the solution and explained why project operations is the clear choice for your business. I'd like to try and explain why Velosio is the right partner to help you and your company see the rapid business value from implementing project operations. As I'm sure you would all agree, even the most comprehensive solutions require business expertise to implement. Well, Velosio brings that expertise. We have more than 30 years of Microsoft consulting expertise in project-based firms. We have over 400 team members with experience in Dynamics 365, Microsoft 365, the Power Platform, Azure, and of course, project operations. Velosio has solutions that are built specifically to increase the return on investment our customers see from implementing project operations. And with that, I'd like to get James to tell you about our AXIO for professional services that helps our customers realize that accelerated ROI. James?
Thank you, Robbie. You know, I love talking about AXIO. And what is AXIO? So born from decades of successful delivery of technology projects and developed by our most experienced consultants and IT resources, AXIO addresses very specific aspects of an implementation that our clients have deemed as critical success factors to their projects. For example, best practices. Too often when we go to professional services firms, what we hear from our clients is, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Since you guys do so much of work in the professional services space and that you're specialists in this area, we want to make sure that we follow the best practices that our peers follow. So with that, we decided and embarked on developing over 500 business process models based on best practices. The other aspect of AXIO is the speed at which we can deliver a project without compromising the scope and the anticipated business outcomes. So for example, a pre-configured business solution on day one. We'll talk about that in a second. Data import packages. So there are a number of utilities that we bring to bear and leverage throughout the implementation that increases and accelerates in an efficient manner the overall implementation, which obviously reflects on a compressed timeline and a reduced cost to implement. We also deliver with AXIO certain module enhancements. Many of our customers use a variety of electronic banking capabilities. And so we provide that for major US banks. We have files that are pre-configured to be able to communicate electronically, to manage full paperless electronic bank configurations, exchange of positive pay files, and so on and so forth. Payroll integration. I would say 90+% of our clients outsource their payroll. So it's important to be able to have a solution that integrates payroll provider, at least for GL journal purposes. And then, of course, a reduced total cost of ownership. So long-term solution management is very important in a cloud-based environment. So in the next slide, we'll cover some of the long-term and short-term benefits of AXIO. So you can see from the very first item here that AXIO provides value from day one. So what do I mean by that? So a couple of examples. You start with a fully configured test solution based on the best business practices that I spoke about that have been adopted by your peers. And this results in a compression of the analysis and design phase. And there are two very real benefits of this approach. One is that the users get their hands on the solution very early in the process. For those of you that have gone through traditional implementations, you know that initially there's a very long analysis and design phase where you're going through almost like a whiteboard session, laying out the processes, and then once all that's agreed and documented, you then go ahead and configure the solution. We really shortcut that step by delivering a fully pre-configured solution on day one. What that means is that the users get their hands on the solution very early during the design thinking workshops. Many users aren't used to modern project-based solutions. So what they don't know, they don't know. But when they get oriented with a solution early on in the process, it fosters a great deal of thinking around potential capabilities that they can leverage and take advantage of, which many of them never thought were possible. And so this really helps transition, skeptical users who are anxious about change into champions of the product as they start realizing true values that they can benefit from, how these processes can make their life a lot easier. So user adoption is key in every investment that you make. And these are one of the steps that really enhance that transition and provide a better comfort about the realization of the big investments you make in these technology projects. And then also cloud environments. They require users to keep their solutions on the latest releases. So unlike the solutions, the legacy solutions that were on-prem, where you had complete control over the product, you could choose when to upgrade, when not to upgrade, and sometimes you have customized the solution so much that you really don't want to upgrade. And so upgrades take time and effort because you have to test a lot, and if you have customized it, there are custom processes that need to be tested. An AXIO subscription includes this solution management aspect. That means all the activities that are needed to perform regular updates, such as regression testing and the maintenance of test scripts, the evaluation of new features, and whether those new features can be potentially adopted and incorporated into the existing processes. So these are just some of the benefits of AXIO. We don't have time in this session to really go through a lot of the other areas, but those are the two benefits that we always hear as feedback from our clients that have gone through a Velosio deployment process as being very instrumental in the success of their technology projects. The next slide. So just to summarize, AXIO has a little bit for everybody in the organization. The business stakeholders, the executive teams that have decided to embark on this project against a defined scope. Everyone has a budget that you have to carefully manage, and we are great stewards of managing that budget. And so when we have a pre-configured system based on best business practices, instead of asking the users, what do you want? We challenge them to let us know why they would deviate from the pre-configured solutions that we are deploying. After all, it is based on their peers' processes. So there's not too many reasons, apart from certain unique situations, why you would deviate from following those core critical processes. Also, the streamlined implementation. This is the user base to be able to take advantage of a very smooth process of orientation into a new product to help them transition into to be real champions of adoption. To simplified solution management, which really addresses some of the concerns the IT departments have. How are we going to manage these solutions? There's a lot of updates to be done. There's a lot of testing to be done. AXIO really addresses those concerns from an IT perspective. and then the overall success of the project for the stakeholders. So, we really have developed some amazing IP in AXIO that addresses the entire project team and the overall success of the project. Over to you, Robbie.
Well, that's great. Thank you, James. Yeah, thank you so much, Gurkan. And Rupa, thank you so much again for attending, giving that wonderful demo. I just really appreciate both of you coming and doing this for us and our clients. It's been very informative. I want to close by just saying that if you're thinking about revamping your systems, looking at your efficiencies of your professional services business, please think of Velosio. We talked about the great product and project operations, and we would love to help you implement that. We believe that we bring a set of skills and a set of resources and capabilities that are unmatched in the industry. So we'd love to help you and your customers, or you and your employees, just see those values. Thank you all again. Thanks everyone for attending, and I hope to see you on our next webinar.
Great. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you, Rupa. Thank you, Gurkan.
Thank you, James.